So this week has not been that great for me. As you can already tell, microphone quality is different because my old mics that usually attach right here broke. Oh, and the power steering on my car is gone. So that means that right now, until I get that fixed up, I can't go to the studio. So we're back in this dimly lit bedroom. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today, and as I fight off a week's amount of bad luck, I've been playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, a game that brings me back to the golden age of Star Wars gaming. For those of you who have been around a decent amount of time and played Star Wars games during the early 2000s, where we had Republic Commando, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, one of those being my favorite game of all time. We also had the Battlefront games. It was such a good time to love Star Wars video games, and Jedi Fallen Order brings me back to that time where Star Wars games took risks, embraced new ideas, told interesting and engaging stories, let you explore the beautiful planets that this universe has brought us. Respawn has really outdone themselves with Jedi Fallen Order, and it's been one of the best Star Wars games I've played since Knights of the Old Republic. Now, that's not to say it's my favorite game of all time, which is Knights of the Old Republic, but it's one of the best Star Wars games made, and as I mentioned earlier, harkens back to that golden era of Star Wars games, and hopefully will be a trend moving forward and isn't just a one-off. Let me start off with why I really like this game so much. I've always wanted a FromSoft style experience inside of Star Wars. I've always thought that would be a perfect fit, but I always believed also that it would be impossible because Star Wars always has to be accessible because of how widespread the audience is. But this game has been finely tuned in a way I did not expect, because there is a Grandmaster difficulty which I've been playing the whole game on, and a lot of the game's systems are built around a FromSoft experience. There's meditation points which could say serve as your bonfires in Dark Souls. When you rest at these meditation points, enemies respawn, but you get all your health back, you get your health recovery items back. And on this higher difficulty, enemies hit like a truck, but it rewards your mastery. Very infrequently does the game screw you over. There's been a couple of times that's happened. For example, I'll be attacked by what's called an unblockable, where an enemy will turn red, but sometimes they didn't turn red. It was very rare, but still frustrating. It happened. And there is the occasional moment, the hitboxes, where you'll be over here, but the hitbox is here and you'll get hit, even though you're not in the line of fire at all. But these are very rare, and so the gameplay systems hold up incredibly well between deflecting, parrying, light attacks, force attacks using the push, slowing down time, reading your enemies, taking on multiple enemies at once, really reading the room before you head in, creating a strategy, strategically taking down your enemies, targeting weak spots. This is what a combat system I've always dreamt of would be inside a Star Wars game. It's thoughtful, it's engaging, it's enjoyable, without even considering how good the story has been. It's just a damn good combat system. But the FromSoft experience really doesn't stop there for me. I noticed it sort of tied into the level design. Planets in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, as I'm sure you've already heard, are much more expansive than a lot of us expected, and they're built in a Metroidvania fashion, so you can actually unlock new abilities, go back to these planets. Fret not, when you complete the game, you can still go back to these planets, and you can use your abilities to unlock new areas, get new collectibles, and these collectibles are stuff like new parts of the lightsaber, like you can customize the hilt, you can customize the sleeve, or maybe it's new clothes for your character, maybe it's a new color scheme for BD1, perhaps it's something for your ship. And so as you're exploring these shockingly big planets, you'll find out that there are shortcuts that'll lead you back to meditation points, or as I said, those bonfires. And I really like that a lot, because there's something really good about when you explore a planet and as you loop around you discover an area you've already been to, and it's a shortcut now that can lead you back to your current destination. I love that about the Souls games, and this is honestly one of the best replications of that level of world design. But what's great about this is it doesn't sacrifice believable environments to make this level design work. Everything, like for example cutting down a rope, is perfectly in place where it feels naturally built into the level, and there's a reason why you currently couldn't get up there. They also don't sacrifice aesthetics or atmosphere, which really build that Star Wars feel in game. Whether it's the music, the looks, the sights, all of that is really important to creating a believable and intriguing Star Wars planet, and despite the level design being so good, none of that is at stake. Ultimately, you blend the combat as well as the environmental design together, and you create a Star Wars experience I've personally never had, which is really rare to say nowadays. And the fact that it's good is even more shocking, because when you really look back at it, When did Force Unleashed come out? I think it was 2008, 2009. It's been almost a decade since we've really had a good single player release from a Star Wars franchise. I mean, come on. That's just my opinion though. I'm sure some people really like the newer Battlefronts. 2 has sort of turned it around, but I digress. Star Wars gaming is not what it once was, and that's an absolute fact. Now, one thing I will eat my words on is I did not think Cal Kestis would be a good protagonist, right? I've just had this feeling in my chest for a while that you can't tell a good Jedi story, a compelling Jedi story. I've seen so many Jedi in the Star Wars universe. I followed their journeys. I'm tired of seeing the good guy. I want to see something different. I thought Battlefront 2's story could have actually been that, but they really failed me within the first hour of a 4-hour story. But I was wrong, and I think it's because we haven't been delivered a really good and compelling Jedi character in so long that I forgot that even Jedi can be interesting. I think it's because we've been told so many cookie cutter Jedi stories that I forgot what happens when you build one like Cal. Now, part of this is because of the way they build the story. It really focuses on the aftermath of Episode 3, which, fair warning, I love Episode 3. That is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I can feel the hate coming in, but my God, man, I love so much about that movie. It's so good. I know it's not the classics, I know it's a prequel, but I love that movie. And so playing off the aftermath of what happens in that movie and seeing the little nods, I've watched it dozens and dozens of times. I love everything about that. And Cal was one of the Jedi hunted during Order 66, and as you travel through the game, he's recovering his memories, he's developing his abilities, but it doesn't feel gimmicky like I expected. There's a genuine story here. There's a lot of underlying mysteries that I won't ruin because YouTube has been popping off lately. A lot of YouTubers have been off the pack, like thumbnail spoilers, spoilers on social media. I don't know what it is with this game. Maybe everyone's got Star Wars fever because of Mandalorian and now this, but my God, man, I have you guys saved. I'm showing you an early planet in gameplay, and I will not get specific on very big moments of the story, but let's just say that Cal really develops into someone that I cared about, a memorable story. And I gotta say, I appreciate that so much because it's so rare. And I think you gotta tip the cap a little bit to the writing team who blended a script that maybe isn't as jumping off the paper as we'll say in Obsidian RPG, but it's the type of writing that reels you in, keeps you invested, and the acting is superb. Once again, I gotta say, I did not expect Cameron Monaghan to come into what I believe is his first video game and do as well as he did, but you'd think he's been acting in games for a while. Another thing I was pleasantly surprised with is the story takes itself seriously. I thought it was gonna be like your typical Star Wars movie in theaters nowadays, which don't get me wrong, I like, but maybe I just take gaming a little more serious, where they're trying to do a little tongue-in-cheek humor in the middle of some serious moments, and there is humor peppered about, but it's not as forced, it's at the right moments, and it's not so frequent. So I was really happy with overall a lot of the ways the story was handled, how Cal develops as a character, and how I ended up caring about him, and ultimately, I was wrong. I did not think I would like the story as much as I did. I have an expansive vocabulary, I'd argue, but I can't find any other word to describe the music other than it's so Star Wars. And I know that's such a duh moment. I said it to my friends when I was playing this game on PS4. Wow, this is a very Star Wars soundtrack. They're like, you don't say, it's a Star Wars game. But I guess when you play, licensed products, when they're a part of a franchise, sometimes the audio directors or the people who create the music try to remix old tracks or just reuse old tracks from the movies. And I was just happy that the original score here felt very much like naturally created Star Wars music. Like there was a focus there on that. Stands out like a sore thumb immediately on the first planet. I was like, wow, hold on. This is bringing me back. Because for example, I'll even say this with KotOR. KotOR evokes the Old Republic. That's what I think of, which I totally separate from what Star Wars as a whole is. The Old Republic is a part of Star Wars, but it's such a different rendition with vibroblades and the way that factions were handled, how political it is. It's quite different from what modern Star Wars is, where I listen to those soundtracks and I don't think of Star Wars. But Jedi Fallen Order manages to just make me think of Star Wars as a whole, movies, shows, games, and I think that's really important. I hope I'm explaining this well. I know I'm not doing the best job with it, but it's just not on a technical level that I can get into. It's more so a feel, an atmosphere that it brings about. So as you're experiencing those sights and sounds within Jedi Fallen Fallen Order, you'll level up and you'll earn a skill point. Now, these skill points can be used to upgrade your force points, your health. You can upgrade how much health BD1 gives you. You can also upgrade skills, like for example, doing a double overhead slash, which, by the way, you can use this to dismember certain creatures and droids, and that brought me back to Republic Commando, where you were able to use the knife in your wrist and stab Geonosians. Like, oh my god, finally, right? But anyway, the skill tree serves its job. It's not really deep. It's just fuel for progression, I think. It keeps you invested in killing enemies, and when you die, which on my difficulty, I've died a lot. So for me, you want to make sure you get that experience points back from the enemy who killed you, and they'll be highlighted yellow. But I like the skill tree. It doesn't stand out as anything significant, but it's nice to just have some semblance of progression in there. There's also puzzles in this game, kind of like Tomb Raider. And I was a little surprised by this because, for example, the first puzzle I encountered had me go through an entire cave. I unlocked this new ability, and to get out after a significant story beat, I had to complete a puzzle, and I felt that sort of threw the pacing off a little bit. It makes more sense to put the puzzle in front of the story progression, so then you can just hop out of there and go to the next planet. But the puzzles themselves, as someone who doesn't like puzzles that much, they work, right? They remind me of Tomb Raider. They're thoughtful, they feel good to solve, they're not really brain crunching, but they make you engage with the environment, view your surroundings, make creative use of your abilities, trial and error. I enjoyed them a lot more than I expected, but once again, I'm not very partial to puzzles in games. And as I've made this video, I've realized there's just so much packed into this game. I didn't even talk about BD1 yet, who's your little droid companion. Once again, I thought that'd be a little gimmicky. I had a feeling it'd be a little corny inclusion. Oh my god, they're trying to do an R2-D2 like companion, but he's helpful, and the way they animate BD1 is the most adorable thing. It's something about him is so cute, and I've actually fallen in love with the little droid, so I'm a little surprised on that too. I don't want people to get this feeling like I entered the game in a pessimistic manner, although I don't think anyone would blame me because of EA and how they've sort of tarnished Star Wars gaming. But I guess ultimately it wasn't faith in Respawn to be able to transcend to a new genre, which was third-person action-adventure, and create something truly unique and balance all these systems they're trying to do. Like, I thought, okay, I'm gonna try the hardest difficulty. I'm sure it's built around the main normal difficulty, but even on hard, it feels great. It feels like my experience was specifically tailored to me. It feels like there was a level of testing and investigation, and I appreciate that. So ultimately, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, one of the best Star Wars games I've played since Knights of the Old Republic. Really, really enjoying it. Highly recommend it. If you haven't picked it up yet, you should do so. $60 well spent. Don't think of it as supporting EA. Think of it as supporting Respawn, if anything. Respawn's a great developer. They deserve it. They dropped Apex Legends earlier this year, which is a great Battle Royale title, free to play, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, and now they've dropped this AAA Star Wars game, which is also excellent. And with that all out of the way, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think of Jedi Fallen Order? Keep it spoiler free in the comments down below for maybe people who want to do some extra investigation. I'd love to hear from you, so fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below, along with my Patreon. Do consider supporting that as it fuels all the content I create here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.